but you have to have the right infrastructure and the right kind of team approach or mechanics or playbook, whatever you want to call it, to let people fail multiple times with a tool before they succeed. Because it takes time to master everything, even with AI, how to get it right, how to make sure the data transfers properly, how to make sure it speaks with HubSpot, the other systems, and kind of draws the prospect that you want to email. All those things take time.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on another episode of The Pursuit of Purpose. Today, I am joined by Asaf Rotham, who is the former CMO of Seeking Alpha, and he's currently the CMO for a relatively young company called Day.io, so like night and day, Day.io. You can check it out. I'll let him explain that in more detail, but the conversation today is going to be on the topic of AI. So for all of you that, like me, are just can't get enough of diving into all the interesting things that exist in the world today that are rapidly developing in the AI space, I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. So without further ado, Asaf, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and about Day.io?
Well, first, Chris, thanks for having me here. Hope we have an interesting conversation. So as you presented, my name is Asaf. I'm from Israel, living in Tel Aviv, startup nation and all of that. I've been leading marketing teams along, on smaller, some terrible startups, some even more terrible than you can imagine, and some decent and okay. One of them got acquired some 5 years ago, and then Wix called, and I figured, let's go and rest a little bit, and see how other people are doing it so I can also learn. I was brought on to kind of rebuild the marketing for Wix stores. Wix was going strong into e-commerce. Wix is a publicly traded company, over $1 billion in ARR. And sure enough, a few months after I got there, COVID hit. So I was at the eye of the storm of e-commerce COVID, which was super intense, super successful in terms of career and promotions, and kind of the trajectory really changed, but also at a very high cost of personally managing a big team, hiring all the time. And at the beginning of 2021, I didn't want to do it again as we were looking towards the following year. I started my career 1,000 years ago in investment banking. And I love investing, not that good at it, but I love losing money over there. And when Seeking Alpha called me, it's a brand I really respect and wanted to do it. And they were moving away from being a FinPub into subscription. And I don't know how to sell subscriptions. I got there, and sure enough, a few months afterwards, the market crash hit. So I had another run of super intense, albeit very different, much more challenging in terms of how to keep growing. But we did terrific there. And the founders of investing.com sold that company, now have a new company, and we kind of all know each other. It's a small ecosystem here, certainly in the retail investing. And that's how I got into Day, which has been founded by the founders of investing.com. Hope that makes some sense. I also spent too many years in the academy, and kind of, tend to overthink things and to question myself. I do it less frequently in the last few years, but I like to see myself as someone who solves business problems with creative thinking, and hopefully a good manager. I know most of my former employees, they keep in touch with me and keep asking me for stuff, so I hope I do that well. That's the pitch, probably too long of myself, but let's dive into this new thing that is driving everybody crazy. And
Yeah, I have a couple quick questions on Day. So some softwares I'm familiar with, Toggle. I'm sure you're familiar with that
right,
space.
for sure.
So what would be the similar or dissimilar about Day versus Toggle?
I think we both look at the problem of time management, which is huge challenge. If you ever manage people, if you ever worked in a startup, for sure, time management is literally everything, because it is closely tied with priorities. If you get them right, you increase your chances of success. If you don't, nothing will help you. And there are many companies who approach this challenge or problem in various ways. Some have gadgets, some have straightforward time tracking where you start, stop, mobile app, web app. There are various ways of doing it. Some do it with AI. And that's what I want to change, is that people don't need to do it. We're going to do it for them, and we're going to allow them to get deep insights into whatever their companies do. So for example, if you're working on billable hours, you can just ask our AI anything. Who was the best client? Who was the worst client? Which team had the most extra hours or lowest ratio of billable to non-billable hours in plain text, and you get straightforward answers with data. You can visualize it in graphs, in tables, and whatever you want. So it really makes a very, very simple UI to get like very deep insights and like insightful questions on your business. And those are the questions everybody's asking. Like we just finished Q2, right? And everybody is asking the same question. What are our most profitable product lines? What can we do better? How come we're paying so many people and nothing gets done? Where is the time going? So those are the questions people are asking. By the way, when you do the onboarding, we ask, why are you here? Like, what do you want to solve? And this varies culturally, because companies has a lot of business in Latin America where you get one set of answers, and in the US, everyone, and this you can choose multiple answers. Everyone says, I want to know where the time is going. People just don't know what their teams are working on. So as you can see, I'm very passionate about time management. I hope we really nail this one. And yeah, it's a challenging year for everything, but everybody has the same excuse at least.
Yeah. So 2 follow-up questions to that. Couple softwares that we use frequently is Airtable and SmartSuite. I see that you got quite a few native integrations. What would be are either of those softwares on your list of, like, in the roadmap of things that you're going to integrate with soon, or what would be the best way to get time tracking data into Airtable or SmartSuite?
You know me, I know some inside tracks to make that happen. And we do have native integrations. We can pick up another one relatively quick. You just have to make sure that there's a business case behind it, meaning there's some solid interest. And that means that all of your projects, all of your, whether you work on Kanban or List or whatever you want to work there on Airtable, is immediately populated in Day, and you can start tracking time for those tasks, either in real time or with timesheets at the end of the day, soon with AI, so you don't have to do anything. And then the real thing are the insights. It's not the act of tracking time. Everybody hates tracking time in real time, which is one thing. People think they're too good for it. I think I'm too good to track my time because I know how I spend it. But then when you get the real insights, you look at the breakdown, you'll be surprised on what you spend your time on. And your team, you'll be surprised. Let me give you one insight quick that everybody is always shocked. You have a number one priority for the quarter, right? And you would assume that your entire team would drop everything and focus primarily on that number one thing. And once that is delivered, we can go back into doing other things. But you'll be amazed how people do not actually change their priorities because they're already in the middle of it, or they already want to finish it. So not only do you have to prioritize, but you also have to kill other stuff in order to get that priority actually good. So again, those are just like kind of, I don't want to say basic in a bad way. Those are like profound managerial insights you'll get from using those things.
Gotcha. So next, my other question is, what I do. I don't know if I shared this with you before, but so my business right now, we do automation consulting and implementation for painting companies. So it's super, super niche, and we use tools like Make, Zapier, Ply.io. And then we basically, in a typical painting company, they've got 7 to 10 different applications that they use, and none of them talk to each other out of the box. And so all of their reporting and just business process is super cumbersome and requires a ton of manual data entry. And so we come in and tie everything together so that data is flowing more freely between the applications. And one of the things that the painting companies have, I would say a big pain point or frustration that they have is that most of the time tracking tools that they use are, I believe, they just use because, quote, everybody else uses it. So they just do it also. But it's not really that great of a tool. And the biggest one is QuickBooks Time. So just the QuickBooks component of that they bought, I think they bought T Sheets is what it was called formerly.
Yes. Yes.
So the this is the other, and I guess this is a, if there's more meat here, we can stay here longer. But my question uh, is there any reason that your system day would not work for a like boots on the ground, like these people are in the field all day, they're not sitting at a computer, so they check in on their phone that I'm at this job right now, and they're working out in the real world, not like for me, I sit behind a computer all day, and if I'm not behind a computer, I'm probably not working because there's nothing I can do really unless I'm at my computer. So does that make sense? And would day work for a home service use case?
We do. We are cross-device, both online and offline, because we started, as I said, in Brazil, in areas where people go into mines, literally. There's no Wi-Fi there whatsoever. And you have to be able to punch in and punch out, or the equivalent of. So again, whilst I wasn't prepared to do like a full-on pitch, since we come from time and attendance in those places with no Wi-Fi and stuff, happy to take it to a further discussion. We also integrated, we white label with several companies now as our strategy into the United States. So happy to follow up on that and provide, either a pilot or something on that. We can certainly follow up on that. But again, this is a real world problem where, as you said, data migration from 7 different tools, then making sure it works online and offline, and then sync. Those are like issues that many of the people who will listen to this podcast are not familiar with. But I believe those are real problems that AI cannot eat in the next, 6 to 12 months, as opposed to many other things that are already happening and are, one of the biggest challenges I think that AI poses is who's going to have money to buy anything, right? If it's going to be replacing so many jobs. Now, I know that people say like AI won't replace you, but the person with AI will. It's possible. There are a lot of people that AI will replace, starting perhaps with data scientists or at least data analysts. And then there's a bunch of others that I think that's going to happen really, really quick.
So let's go back to this topic of AI. I'll just start out by saying, like, what's on your mind in terms of AI? What do you, in the last couple of days or weeks, what's consuming your thoughts around AI?
It comes more from a personal kind of approach. As I said, I've spent a lot of time in academy and kind of thinking about different disciplines and where do I fit in. It took me a while to kind of figure out what I do well. And it kind of sucks that by the time I figure it out, there's this AI revolution that's going to replace me in 36 minutes. So I want to stay relevant. And by that, I mean that the companies that I work for have to understand and implement AI quickly into everything. I think AI is a huge amplifier of data analysis, and some, of course, the generative AI capabilities are insane, but I think AI gets you from being terrible at something to being average, maybe above average a little bit, really quickly. It won't get you quickly from being above average to great, maybe in a year. For that, like as is, it doesn't go there. So I think companies that have a substantial customer base and companies that solve a real problem, for example, how to track time inside like 200 feet below ground, right, can definitely use AI to enhance their product, period. That is something that is kind of beyond the realms of marketing, but I'm that kind of CMO that tends to spend a lot of his time across the border and into the VP of products room where I spend too much time there. And, he resents this a lot, but there's nothing I can do. We have to move fast and we have to deploy it quickly, or our competitors will. Plus, I really want to give something amazing to our customers and prospects, and I want to enable everyone to stop obsessing about UX and UI and why are things, and retention, and all these metrics that we kind of all worked on in the past few years, and say that people only have one UI. And I think Chat GPT kind of, really revolutionized everything. You want to ask questions and get immediate answers for everything in a very simple chat. We don't care how it looks. It looks kind of the same. We expect more and more of the outcome, meaning better content, better videos or images, and better data analysis. But it all starts with a relatively simple prompt. You can dive deeper. Chat GPT, or everything is based around it, really understands language incredibly. You can and should doubt the result a little bit and see that it matches the database, but at some point you can also add more guardrails and stuff like that. Go to your CTO and blame it on them, put it on them to kind of figure it and make it safe enough. And users will also embrace something even if it's not 100% accurate, right? They're just willing to embrace it because think about a CFO that always questions it, always asks the questions we were talking about. What happened last month? Who did well? Who didn't? Why? What happens? They bring in their controller or their VP of finance, and then he starts pivoting tables. And then, no, I forgot something, or the formula broke there and stuff. It takes hours, right? With the new tools that you have, you can do it literally within seconds. And get the insights. You don't have to bring people in the room. There's no shaming other teams or stuff like that. You just get the information you really want really quick. So that's the kind of the approach. I may have talked too much about it. That's the approach that I want to bring. We can really give profound business answers to profound business questions with AI. How? Whether we do it from a certain angle or another, I almost don't care. Of course I care because it's a company I work with, but it doesn't really matter. As long as we bring it fast, people will love it, will use us more, will pay us more, all the pipeline will look better, work better, faster, all the good stuff will happen there.
AI takes you from not very good to above average quickly, but it doesn't take you from average to great. And I've encountered that in a number of situations where people are like, hey, AI, Chat GPT can build applications or websites. I'm a developer now. And it's like, yes, it can build websites. Does it build good, high quality websites right now out of the box? No. But it does, just like you said, someone that's never done, any number of things can now, by asking questions, figure out relatively quickly how to do something at an average level. So I think that's a fantastic thing to point out. I agree with that entirely. And the other thing that you said is the analysis component of this. My question is, I believe that one of the most critical things any business can do is make sure that their data is clean and well structured, because AI can't work with junk data. If you don't have structured data and things are well detailed and consistent, it might be spitting out results and answers, but you can't trust it if it's not a well structured, clean system. Do you agree with that?
I disagree with that.
Okay, this is fun.
I'll tell you why. One, you're obviously right from a theoretical point of view. Having good structured data is great and is much better than having crappy or semi-structured or whatever kind of data that isn't structured properly and not clean enough. For sure, you're absolutely right. That does not mean that you cannot succeed with, I don't know how to say it politely, but with terrible data and with terribly structured data. You can still succeed based on your experience, intuition. And let me just add one more thing. People are now in a point where they would also pay for something that AI brings to the table, even if the data behind it is bad. Because it is new, it gives you answers within seconds as opposed to
hours or days.
Hours.
Yeah.
And people this year with this pressure and everything we've been throughout in the last year, people want to move things and they want to see things happening. So they're willing to compromise accuracy, safety, regulations, policies, and other stuff to make stuff happen. Having said all of that, for sure, nothing is better for AI to have good structured data because then it runs smoothly, it gives you the right answers, right? And it brings you a better confidence of selling this. However, for this period of time, I would prefer like moving fast with stuff that works because you don't really know what's happening behind the scenes. It's not easy to know how good your data is as an end user, right? And I think people for now, you would prefer the wow factor as opposed to being very careful with that and kind of taking AI in slowly. That's kind of my approach of things. It's not very common approach. I think you are right, but I think in order to survive, you kind of have to have a little bit of my approach in order to let's do it fast.
So I want to clarify,
yeah,
because I think I agree with you also, but I want to I'm going to restate what you're saying in my own words and tell me if you agree with this. Basically, having well-structured data, sure, that it increases your confidence level, your accuracy. However, you shouldn't let poorly structured data stop you from playing the game because you're still going to get insights and value by just jumping in with whatever you have, start applying AI to that and see what it churns out. Is that correct?
that's 100% correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's.
I wish I would have said it so clearly and articulately.
I had a lot of time as you're pointing out these things, so that's good. So then, the other thing that I'm curious about is you mentioned when we were setting up this call that you specifically called out AI tools versus productivity versus focus. Tell me a little bit more about that?
So this is something we kind of spoke a few weeks ago, and I think that was the height of there are literally thousands of AI tools, which are generally APIs over Chat GPT or whatever OpenAI. Some applications are there, and there are thousands of them, right? And you're kind of, if you work with founders, you should be familiar with that twice a week they will come and they will say that a friend of them in another startup is using something and they're killing it with that tool exactly, right? That you probably never heard of, and even if you have, you kind of already know because I've done it before many times that they're not really killing it. This tool takes 3 months to implement, 4 months to become an expert in how to use it properly, and only then will get some results, and then there's attribution and other problems. However, twice a week I hear about a new tool that I have to use because a friend of them is killing everything with it. And when I say focus, I mean.
And I want to clarify or restate again, make sure I'm following you. You're saying that twice a week you hear about a tool. Are you saying that you have yet to experience a tool that actually lives up to the hype? Or are you saying that 90% don't live up to the hype, but occasionally there is one that actually is good?
Both are true. I'm just saying, like, when we say focus, meaning we should know, it starts with what are the targets, it starts with the why. Why are we doing it? But then, operationally speaking, we have to be focused around our targets and our goals, right? And then how do we get to them? There are ways to get to almost anything. AI tools in marketing should help us achieve those goals. It's really hard to achieve those goals if you always have to try another tool in order to get there. Let's talk about email marketing, right? For example, we have now AI email writers, senders, everything, right? Should we try all of those? There's dozens of them, right? Should we try 5 of them? Those are the kind of questions that I'm tasked with kind of understanding is like, what's the right ratio of innovation and bringing something new into still being able to write it properly, meaning that we know how to use this tool because we've done it for 5 times already, not like one and throw it away. Let's the next one and throw it away. Because it takes time to master everything, even with AI. How to get it right, how to make sure the data transfers properly, how to make sure it speaks with HubSpot, the other systems, and kind of draws the prospect that you want to email. All those things take time. Now, if you invest the time in that, your productivity on the output will go down, at least for a little bit, right? Best case scenario, it goes down a bit and then up a lot because AI will help you scale things. But since you're always under so much pressure to try new things and move them, right? This is where you have to balance versus the kind of the equation of am I hitting my goals, right? Do I give my team enough time to do any task properly, to do it twice, 3 times, 4 times, to iterate and become better at stuff? Or do I always give them one shot to succeed? And by that, I also give myself one shot to succeed with every tool. So that's why I think AI can be an enemy of productivity. It's almost a paradox, right? Because in theory, you can do so much more, you can scale so much more, but you have to have the right infrastructure and the right kind of team approach or mechanics or playbook, whatever you want to call it, to let people fail multiple times with a tool before they succeed. If you only give them 1, 2 chances, the chances, take myself. In almost anything that I do the first time, I won't do it very well. It's just the way it is in this field. You have to do it multiple times in order to succeed. And that is why I am very protective on my team when we are presented with new AI tools that will change everything, right? And my pushback is always, okay, so here's what's on my list. Let me drop 3 things here so I can, put a week in order to try this new tool. Try this technique. Tell your CEO that you're going to drop 3 things that are directly related into revenue in order to try a new AI tool. And you will quickly see their enthusiasm diminishing.
I think that's because I would say, I don't know about you, but I would say in past jobs that I've had, I am certainly I'll be the first to say that I'm the shiny object guy, that's ooh, look at that. Ooh, let's try this. Let's try that. Let's try this. And people around me tend to get burned out with the new and innovative and thing more quickly than I do. But I am relentless about, and that's to a fault. I'm acknowledging that it would be better if sometimes I just put my head down and didn't look for what else is out there. But there's also that allure to maybe there's that tool that we don't know about yet that could change everything and make it, solve this problem that we've been dealing with for the last 4 years. And so the nice thing about my current business is that what we're trying to do, this is one of the facets that I believe that we offer, is that my team is staying and we're our heads up and we're scoping and scanning for all these different tools and trying them and seeing what lives up to the hype and what's good. And then we're recommending to our clients they're the painting companies, they're doing the work. We're the tech people that are just kind of exploring and then saying hey, for example, the Day.io software, that could be awesome. I'm super excited to learn about that. And nobody in the painting world has ever heard of it, and this could be a thing that ends up solving a lot of the pain that they have around time tracking. And that's what gets me, that's why I love doing these conversations, because I always learn a new tool, new software. And then the question is, should I invest more time and energy into it? Or was it just a cool thing that I now know that exists and I can tell someone to go research it on their own?
Maybe that's a question I should ask you, but if I were to answer this, I would say this: does it solve a real business need without the AI? Is there a real problem behind it that AI, only makes it a better solution? Because I don't think in itself, up until now, AI can solve. Well, maybe it can, but not in my experience. It hasn't solved something that wasn't a good problem and had a decent solution without it. If you look at Chat GPT and the generative, let's talk only content generative AI tools, there's a bunch of them. You had other solutions for content writing, right? You had freelancers, you had in-house teams, you had a lot of those things. I think what AI changed is the speed. and the scale of things, but the problem remained like creating content, quality content at scale. Um, and if if you know what the painters, what their main problems are, or if you know it, even if they don't know it, but you have a strong sense of like what is a big problem here that we can solve, then yeah, tools with AI I think are superior to tools that go without and kind of rely only on people to work and UX and 11 clicks to get something done, and you have to remember to do them in the right order, otherwise it doesn't work. It kind of takes out the learning a new tool. I think that's what makes Chat GPT and kind of it's a very simple chat UI so strong is we don't have to learn another tool. It's not another Figma where we have to learn it and know how to use it. And you can just tell Figma, color everything in orange, and it will color everything in orange. So the kind of the factor of do it for me is huge, especially for people who actually labor for their work in a positive way, right? They can't set aside 2 hours to learn a new tool every day. You have to do it for them and then bring to the table something with a very high learning curve for them. And I think that's one, it's a very cool job because you can bring something, you're exposed to many cool tools, but you also bring to the table something with tremendous value for the team. And secondly, I think as long as you keep in mind, there's a real problem and not just shiny object, or at least try to find the shiny objects that fit straight on that or that solve directly that problem. I think you're in a great place.
Yeah, I think I would completely agree with you. It's fun. I love technology. I love the cutting edge and seeing what's out there. And then I completely agree that I would even say in analytics, which you probably have some stuff to say on this. People always they ask about like, tell me about the productivity on rainy days with carpentry or whatever, and it's like, great, that like, first of all, yes, we can find that, but what are you going to do with that information, and so I think that a lot of the stuff, my first thing I always ask when someone's trying to track something is, why are you tracking this? If you found out that it was really high or really low or whatever it was, what does that actually change about the business? What are you going to do differently? And oftentimes they're a common response to most things that people want to track is like, oh, I'm just curious. It's like, well, there's a lot of data that's just entertaining and like fun fact data, but you need data that's actually actionable that you can then go do and change and pull a lever or like redirect energy or focus to make the business more profitable or more scalable or something.
I think your question, Chris, is a great one. Regardless, I think also the answer of curiosity is a great answer. But like I think the way you question them on like what would change if this was on either ends of the spectrum is an excellent question, which I am going to steal and present as my own. But it's really a great question, and thanks for bringing it up here. I'll start questioning everyone with this.
Yeah, like what do you the actionable, like how is this entertaining or is it actionable? Like at whatever you're tracking, is it entertaining or is it actionable? Because you have to have like, yeah, I'm the king. I feel like in the marketing world you could I don't know if you've had these experiences, but we hire consultants or vendors to do Google ads or to track something, and they present all like hundreds of metrics in these presentations of like, how are we doing? And they're like, oh, you check out the CPM cost, and they're going through all these metrics, CPC and
Are we
everything. It's
selling
like,
anything?
yeah,
Are
it's
we
like,
selling
what's the revenue?
anything?
What was the revenue? They're like, oh, well, that actually didn't go up. That went down a lot. And it's like, okay, so why are you distracting with all these other metrics they don't like, I don't care. You guys figure that out and tell us what we care about, which is, leads and revenue. Like that's it, and how
Absolutely,
qualified were they?
absolutely.
I'm kind of interested in the specific AI tools that you have seen that have worked well, or like your favorite marketing AI tools, or that you've actually implemented, not just the ones you've heard about. Or we could go down the more theory route of strategy, how to implement this, how to guide a team, whichever direction you want to go in.
Yeah, I'm happy to say I've tried multiple tools such as Jasper, for example, which is kind of the poster boy of marketing tools driven by AI. And other ones, Canva have terrific applications, with AI. I have to say though, Chat GPT has everything in it, especially with the plugins. That's in my experience right now. It allows me to work in a language that I'm very not native in it, Portuguese, and being able to kind of proofread everything that my team uploads. It enables me to just upload, especially now with the what's the latest plugin? Let me just code interpreter, where you download any kind of data from analytics or from anywhere, from HubSpot, into a CSV and upload it into code interpreter and just ask questions. Did our revenue go up? Why didn't it go up? Just try it. This is amazing. It's an amazing plugin. And in marketing, again, there's the generative stuff, which is very cool. And again, I tried, but I keep going back to the places where ChatGPT is kind of, a great place to quickly come up with a lot of ideas and refine content. And then in terms of design and stuff like that, I'm very minded on design, so we haven't figured out a tool that does what we want with some brand consistency and animation and like illustrations the way we want. So for now, we're still using manual illustrations. I am guessing we're close to a point where we'll have some solution for that. But going
And that's
back, so
manual
that's one.
illustrations of what?
Correct. Of every, blog posts, you need a hero image, you need it for campaigns, you need it for everything, you want to be brand consistent. I think the tools that I've played with up until now have been, in terms of visuals, underwhelming in terms of the generative AI space, and that's why we keep working with
Graphic designers.
Graphic designers, animators, and illustrators. I would like even to see just images that are more consistency in terms of the colors and everything. And we're, from my experience up until now, for example, Jasper, the images were, far off than what I even thought would be something that I can use, not proudly, but they're like just good enough. Maybe they are now. We tried them a couple of months ago. So there's the generative AI space where content, I feel, has, the bar has been set really high. For visuals, we're not there yet. Even though we came to a point where you can kind of give a prompt to either Midjourney or Dolly or one of those, as long as you kind of keep it on a drawing or a design reference of a famous artist, it will be quite consistent. So you just have to make sure it's relevant for your brand, and it isn't for us. So that's why we didn't go there.
Gotcha.
And there's the other side of marketing, which is numbers, analytics, and stuff like that. And this is where my mind is really, I've had a wrong and complicated relationship with data analysts. I've always felt they were too slow and bring too many of their opinions into the data that I'm asking a simple question and I'm getting 7 answers that aren't the question that I'm asking. It could be just me. I'm not saying some other people that I spoke with have had terrific analysts who were a main component of their drive forward. For me, that hasn't been the case. So when you have tools, amazing tools like Akio or Quote Interpreter, where you just download your CSV, upload it to Chat GPT4, you will get amazing insights and analysis. Do yourself a favor and double check it on your own with pivoting table and doing all those terrible things. By the way, you can also ask ChatGPT for the G-sheet formulas and stuff like that. So makes things way, way faster. And just double check some of that information that you get actual answers from that data set. But that's amazing. Again, the insights there, the speed, the quality, just a whole new ball game for me. And by the way, this ties in with the worst launch of the year, or perhaps the worst sunset of the year, which is Google Analytics. GA4 is absolutely horrible. Everybody hates it. and kind of the field is now wide open because all the marketers who were using GA4, I mean Google Analytics, the previous one, what was it, 360, as like our, I don't know, bread and butter kind of quick snapshot of analytics. Chris, are you with me? I feel
Yep.
like
No, I'm
sorry.
still tracking. I'm very interested in what you're saying about the GA4.
Yeah, sorry. So I'll just pick it up. All of this coincides with one of the worst, products of the year, which is GA4, which I think is terrible, and Google just sunset the previous version. This new version is horrible. The UI and UX are absolutely terrible. The most basic analysis there is very hard to do, and you have to invest so much time. You compare it with just a chatbot. You can just ask so many questions, get all the insights. You don't need to learn how to filter the data in a new way and all of those things. I think they really dropped the ball here, and the timing is awful because the entire marketing scene is getting very comfortable with just telling the tool to do it for us, so we don't have to do whatever 25 clicks into getting a simple answer.
Filter it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
are
think
you
data
saying that
and
you
AI.
are you saying that you have a way to get analytics on your website without using GA4?
Yeah, but because GA4 is so terrible, I have my HubSpot dashboard, but I also download a lot of the data CSV and just throw it into Chat GPT to get insights. And as I'm saying, some of those things are just plain basic, but some are interesting. And I strongly recommend everyone to just do it and see if it surprises you. If it does, go ahead and double check it. And if the insight is valid, then just imagine what else you don't know yet that you haven't played with. And again, there's nothing new to learn. Just upload a CSV and start asking
And so
questions.
or just to clarify that point, because I think that's potentially super valuable to our listeners, is you're saying you download as just like the biggest data set that you can from HubSpot, because a lot of my
Correct.
clients use HubSpot, and this would be, deal data, whatever, or analytics tracking data, and you
Correct.
download that. You use Code Interpreter to upload it
Right, which
to
is the Chat
ChatGPT.
GPT plugin, open for everybody with Chat GPT4. Pay those $20 a month. High ROI on that.
Gotcha. So the Code Interpreter is just it's built in if you're paying for the $20 a month with ChatGPT.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there are other ways, by the way, there are other ways to kind of upload or connect Google spreadsheet. So it doesn't have to be Code Interpreter. There are other already existing plugins that we've used before Code Interpreter. There's plenty of AI data companies. One of them is Akio, Akio. Another terrific company, just upload terrific UI, super easy to use. They kind of restructure all your data in a way that is immediately visible, and then you have the Chat GPT. I have no relations with them. Like I don't get any referral money from them or something. Just something that I really enjoyed and I think will help you hone the questions that you always wanted to ask but never had the energy to invest because the answers took hours. Now they take seconds. You also, and this is by the way something that a lot of marketers, but not only, some people are shy in asking the dumb questions, as you mentioned. Like you work with an agency and they give you 100 metrics, and you kind of feel stupid about asking, like, okay, should I bring up the revenue thing? It might be only me and everybody's happy. Ask those dumb and honest questions, and you will get amazing answers. That's my one-liner about AI and data. That's what I love about it. I don't need, and I'm not a very technological person, meaning I don't know how to code, and you don't need anything. Just need to go there, put it, CSV, we all know how to do, and ask questions, we all know how to do that.
So I want to make sure that because you're opening my eyes, and I'm going to ask the dumb question right now because I'm not an expert with these plugins, but I'm in Chat GPT. I have a paid account, GPT-4 plugins, right?
Right. Yes.
And then I go to the plugin store.
It's called Web Pilot. Look at that. It say it can allow you to connect any browse and view a web page PDF data. Yeah, install it. Gave him a link from Google Sheets and asked him, can you access this link? And he said, yes, I can. It was a mock data, right? This data speaks about car sales in the US in the last year, right? It kind of gave me the snippet. And then he was like, what are your main insights? And it kind of read the data and within seconds gave me the main insights are as follows. And I could be happy and I can tell him, like, go deeper, right? This is something that is really meaningful for me. You're only giving me surface level data. Try to give me deeper insights. Like we're talking, right? Like I'm talking to you.
Yeah, yeah.
And he would just do it, right?
Yeah. So the funny thing is that what I use this Google Sheet for, it's basically like a master sheet when we're working to implement automation for a company, and we
Right.
organize all of the data before we go do anything. So it's not really a data set; it's more of like a worksheet. But I would say
Right.
this is like it's correct. This is absolutely right that we're using it as a comprehensive tool to organize data. So
Try
that's cool.
again. One of the easiest things is just download from Google Analytics. Just export a CSV, let it run with it, and see the insights that it can give you. If you have more interesting data, HubSpot, whatever, just throw it out there and see what it gives you. It's a terrific tool. Another one, whilst we're here, go to Akio, if you don't mind. Let me show you even better one, right?
Akio.
Which is, yes. As you can see, this is their actual product. It's just like a screenshot. So it immediately gives you some graphs and information. And then there's also a window that you can just chat with your data and query it in whatever way you want. And it literally writes the code in front of you and brings you the answers.
So, Asaf, this is like I'm pumped about this. I want to like immediately after this call, I'm going to export some client data and from HubSpot and just see what it can do. So one question would be Akio versus the other tools that you're recommending in Chat GPT. How are you guys leveraging these two?
Bringing them in. I mean,
And
the
so you're
Chat GPT.
taking like for day.io, you're taking like analytics from your website, upload it to Akio or upload it to ChatGPT, and you're just asking questions. And
For sure, for sure. That's a no-brainer. It's so easy to do. Why wouldn't we try it? The worst thing is we get zero new insights, right? That's the worst thing that can happen. And you wasted 10 minutes because it's that easy. Um, and I'm also pushing hard on product and telling them, hey, these tools exist. We need to bring them as part of our product offering, whether it's OEM, integration, whatever. I don't care. I mean, I care, but I don't care how. But we need to offer this value to our customers based on our data set, right? We want to let
yeah,
people
inside
ask
of day,
questions, right?
yes, so that you
Inside.
don't
So
because it's
there's
just one extra step. Why make them export and whatnot?
why not just directly from our data? Let's spare the export. Make sure we have the guardrails in place to make sure that we maintain compliance. As I said, this is employee data, so compliance is really important. Privacy, other things that we want to make sure we maintain. Let's bring everything inside. That's what we've been working on the last 2 months, coming out by the end of this month, or somebody will be executed.
That's awesome.
This always works. It always
That's
works.
right. So the last, we'll just do rapid fire to wrap up. Questions I ask everybody: 3 book recommendations and your favorite movie.
Books, just a quick understanding. Any books or professional books?
These would be your favorite books. So it can be nothing related to what we're talking about.
All right. Let me start with a book that is related to what we're doing, which is The Hard Thing About Hard Things, which is the book for startups and for, generally speaking, doing stuff where there is no playbook on how to do it. And there are many playbooks, and you should read all of them. But this book also arms you with some insights on what to do when there's no real, guide on how to do it. It's a classic. I think Ben Horowitz wrote it, and it's a really, really great book. Also fun to read as opposed to many other kind of.
It is a very entertaining stories and whatnot. He's a good writer.
Right, and I can relate in a different way to many of the hard things he had to, go through in my experience in the last 3 years. So that's one book, and one more completely unrelated to those things is a trilogy called The Three Body Problem. The first book is called The Three Body Problem. It's a sci-fi saga written by a Chinese writer. I've never read any Chinese written books. It is a fantastic book. I'll just give you the premise. and I'm ruining nothing with it. People on Earth discover another civilization, which is 4 light years from us, and we discover them just as they send a fleet to destroy us that moves at 1% of light speed, meaning we have 400 years to prepare for that. But they have some ways to trick physics into being able to monitor and disrupt our technological advancement in the meanwhile. And this is kind of the onset of this amazing 3 books that I listened. Terrific audiobooks, by the way. As you know, the narrator is very important in audiobooks. Terrific narration. Just a wild experience, something you have never read any sci-fi like this, which is saying something. Netflix is now making it into a series. The trailer is already out.
That's awesome.
So it's going to be, they brought the guys who did Game of Thrones to be the showrunners here. So I strongly recommend to read this incredible saga. Another one is called Never Let Me Go. This is a book that came out, I think, around the year 2000. I kind of missed out on it. It's a famous Japanese English writer. He's one of the, I don't remember his name, but he's one of the best writers.
Ishiguro?
Yes. Also won all the awards that you can think for literature. And this is a very delicate and beautiful book. Has some sci-fi and kind of in the envelope, but if you don't like sci-fi, you can still really like this book. It is so delicate and gentle and beautiful and sad. And I don't really read that much literature, novels and kind of prose. I kind of move into the history and World War II and Mongols and all the things that men my age kind of tend to drift to. But this one is really great, and I strongly recommend. In terms of movies, I have favorite movies, but they will kind of showcase my age, so I am a little bit hesitant on doing it. I would say the number one, Fight Club would definitely be number one. Just the amount of times that I've read the book and seen the movie, I really love everything about it. But there's just so many good movies, it's very hard to choose one. If I could choose 3, I would say the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But you made me choose one, so that would be it.
Awesome. Well, Asaf, this was super fun. I'm excited to implement some of the stuff we talked about, and I'd love to have you follow up with me about that the time tracking software, because I think there's a couple other pain points that the painting company or painting world experiences, and you can tell me if you feel like it's an interesting use case or not. But if someone wants to get in touch with you, how would you recommend that they do that?
I think LinkedIn is the appropriate place to
reach out,
shop, and do anything. But you can just Google Asaf Rotham. There aren't that many of them still around, so I'll represent them
awesome.
With pride.
Well, thank you so much,
Chris.
Asaf. Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, a lot, and we'll follow up soon.
Thank you for your attention and listening to this episode of The Pursuit of Purpose. Your feedback and comments mean the world to me. If you liked what you heard, please take a second, leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. If you've got suggestions for future episodes or just want to say hi, shoot me an email at chris@chriskiefer.com. Don't forget, I make it a point to include all the links to the books, movies, and resources mentioned on this episode in the show notes. You can see those directly below in the description or on my website, chriskiefer.com. Thanks so much, guys.